The village of Eldermoor was a quaint and quiet place, nestled in a valley surrounded by dense forests and rolling hills, but it held a secret. A dark tale whispered among the villagers, a legend that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to speak of it. The story of the haunted bridge. Every child in Eldermoor grew up hearing the warnings: never venture into the whispering woods after dark, and above all, never cross the bridge that lay deep within its heart. The bridge was old, built from stones now covered in moss and ivy, and it spanned a chasm where a river once flowed, but had long since dried up. It was said that the spirits of the lost and forgotten lingered there, bound to the bridge by some ancient curse. Eleanor Gray had always been intrigued by the stories. As a child, she would sit by the fire, listening wide-eyed to the elders recount tales of ghostly apparitions and eerie lights seen near the bridge. Now, at 21, Eleanor had returned to Eldermoor after years away at university, determined to uncover the truth behind the legend. Eleanor's curiosity was insatiable, much to the dismay of her childhood friend, Henry Blackwood. Henry, a practical and cautious man, had always tried to dissuade Eleanor from her more reckless pursuits, but Eleanor's fascination with the supernatural was not easily quelled.
"You can't seriously be thinking of going to the bridge,"
Henry said, his voice low and urgent. As they sat in the village pub, the warm light from the hearth flickered across his concerned face.
"I have to, Henry. There's something about the legend that doesn't add up. I need to see it for myself."
Eleanor replied, her eyes gleaming with determination. Henry sighed, running a hand through his dark hair.
"You know what they say happened to those who crossed it, right? They never came back."
Maybe they were just stories to scare children.
Eleanor countered.
Or maybe there's more to it. Either way, I need to find out.
The following night, with the full moon casting an eerie glow over the landscape, Eleanor set out for the Whispering Woods. Armed with a lantern and a notebook, she ventured into the forest, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. As she neared the bridge, the air grew colder, and the trees seemed to whisper in a language she couldn't understand. The bridge itself loomed ahead, a shadowy silhouette against the moonlit sky. Eleanor hesitated for a moment, feeling an inexplicable dread, but she pushed forward. Stepping onto the bridge, she felt a sudden chill, as if the temperature had dropped by several degrees. Her breath formed clouds in the air, and she could hear a faint whispering all around her. Holding up her lantern, she scanned the area, her eyes widening as she saw faint, ghostly figures hovering near the edges of the bridge.
"Who's there?"
she called out, her voice trembling. The figures seemed to flicker and shift, their forms barely visible in the dim light. One of the apparitions drifted closer, and Eleanor could see the outline of a young woman, her eyes filled with sorrow.
"Leave this place.
The ghostly figure whispered.
It is not safe."
Eleanor's courage faltered, but she forced herself to ask.
"Why are you here? What happened to you?"
The apparition's face twisted in anguish.
"We are bound by a curse. The bridge holds us captive, and it will claim you too if you do not leave."
Shaken but determined, Eleanor returned to Eldermoor and sought out the village historian, Mrs. Thornfield. The elderly woman had lived in the village all her life and knew more about its history than anyone else.
"The legend of the haunted bridge dates back centuries,"
Mrs. Thornfield explained, as they sat in her cluttered study.
"It is said that a terrible tragedy occurred there, a betrayal that led to a massacre. The souls of those who perished were bound to the bridge by a vengeful spirit."
Eleanor listened intently, taking notes.
But what was the nature of the betrayal, and who cast the curse?
Mrs. Thornfield sighed, her eyes distant.
"That, my dear, is a mystery lost to time, but there is a way to break the curse, or so the legend says."
Eleanor leaned forward, her heart racing.
How?
"The spirit responsible for the curse must be confronted and made to relinquish its hold on the souls. but it is dangerous. Many have tried and failed.
Determined to free the spirits trapped by the curse, Eleanor prepared for her next journey to the bridge. She gathered what she could: charms for protection, a mirror said to reveal the true nature of spirits, and a locket that had belonged to her grandmother, who had always believed in the power of love to conquer evil. Henry insisted on accompanying her this time, unable to let her face the danger alone.
If we're going to do this, we'll do it together,
He said firmly. The night was darker than before, with clouds obscuring the moon. As they reached the bridge, the whispering grew louder, more insistent. The ghostly figures appeared once more, their faces twisted in pain. Eleanor held up the mirror, and the apparitions recoiled, their true forms revealed as tormented souls.
Show yourself.
Eleanor demanded, her voice strong.
Release these spirits.
A cold wind swept through the bridge, and a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, menacing spirit with eyes like burning coals.
You dare challenge me?
It hissed. Eleanor stood her ground, clutching the locket.
I do. These souls deserve peace and this curse.
The spirit laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the forest.
You think you can defeat me? I am bound to this bridge as they are.
With a surge of courage, Eleanor held the locket aloft.
Love is stronger than your hatred. Release them, or face the consequences.
The spirit shrieked, recoiling from the locket's light. The ghostly figures began to fade, their expressions softening as the curse weakened.
No!
The spirit cried, its form flickering. In a final burst of defiance, Eleanor stepped forward.
Be gone.
She commanded, and the spirit shattered into 1,000 pieces, dissipating into the night. The air grew warm again, and the whispering ceased. The spirits of the lost were finally free. Eleanor and Henry stood on the bridge, exhausted but victorious.
Thank you.
A voice whispered, and Eleanor turned to see the young woman she had first encountered.
We are at peace now.
Eleanor smiled, tears in her eyes.
Rest well.
As they made their way back to the village, the first light of dawn breaking through the trees, Eleanor knew that the legend of the haunted bridge had come to an end. The curse was broken, and the spirits were free. But the story of their bravery, of their willingness to face the darkness and bring light to the lost, would live on in Eldermoor, a new legend to inspire generations to come.